To celebrate the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, student and adult advisory boards for the Brace Center for Gender Studies organized a presentation at all-school meeting last Friday. Here is live reporter Nina Choophungart with the story.
Thank you. The 19th Amendment, passed in 1920, prohibits the state and federal governments from denying the right to vote on the basis of sex. Focused mainly on the 19th century women's suffrage movement in the United States, last Friday's ASM provided students and faculty with a brief history of women's suffrage around the world.
When the amendment was first passed, it was like a lot of white women, and you usually wouldn't like see the women of color like on the center stage of those protests. And I feel like that was very like interesting to see that they were showing different perspectives rather than like the normal narrative.
I knew about it, and I knew it gave the women the right to vote, but I didn't really know the history behind it. I thought it was really interesting just to find out about it.
Midori Ishizuka, teaching fellow in history and social science, spoke alongside students and other faculty members at the ASM.
I was asked.
She describes how she was greatly inspired by
by
the ASM and the collaborative effort by members of the History Department and Brace Center to put it together.
I was asked to do that by Dr. Vidal, and she inspires me as a woman who is, as all the women in the department and in the Brace Center do, they all inspire me. And I think hearing that this was an opportunity was inspiring, and that I would be entrusted with speaking in front of everybody, and just to give credit where credit is due, the work that was required to make that ASM happen. I was just someone who volunteered to speak the words that were written by history colleagues and then add a little bit, but it really was the work of everybody. So I think Dr. Vidal inspired me to do it by asking me, and my colleagues inspired me by just being amazing, smart, powerful women.
Sayyeda Ibrahimova, 22, was part of a computer science project featured at the ASM. In partnership with the Brace Center, the project focused on educating students about female heads of state through interactive technology. She hopes that the project will be on display in the basement of the library.
So for the data project, what we did, we created a map, an interactive map, with a list of female heads of state per country. So if you click on any country you're interested in, you'll see a list of female heads of state in the past, their biographies, their photographs, the descriptions of their job, their life. Hope it will be displayed in the basement, right next to Nest. There is a big screen. Yeah, and you will have a chance to interact with the map.
The presentation was meant to launch the Brace Center's 100 Ways to Celebrate the 100th Anniversary of the 19th Amendment project. The project will include several events over the course of 2020 in celebration of the ratification of the 19th Amendment and to connect students to the history of the Abbott Academy through their alumni. Emma Sleibick, class of 20, member of the Brace Center Student Advisory Board, was responsible for the original idea behind the project. She hopes that the project will inform and inspire Andover students to learn more about the history of women's suffrage and feel inspired to actively support this cause.
So the 90th Amendment celebration is nowhere near over, actually. We have 97 more moments to go. And it really started, I think, last spring when I was thinking about, because Dr. Vidal had told the Brace Board about this ASM and the 19th Amendment ASM and the project that was being done on like what were Abbott women like thinking about and talking about. And I was thinking about this and like how else we were going to like acknowledge this moment on campus, and I was like, well, what if we did a moment for every year that the 19th Amendment has been an amendment? So it's 100 years of the 19th Amendment, so that means 100 moments honoring the legacy of the 19th Amendment and highlighting places where the 19th Amendment failed and complicating that narrative, as they talked about in ASM as well, and continuing to do work that like lives in the same like light as the 19th Amendment, like kind of that goal. And this is one of the things I love about Dr. Vidal. She was immediately like very supportive. She was like, yes, let's do it. It sounds awesome. And so then it really became like coming up with these 100 moments and then working on each of them. So that's kind of where I've been the most involved.
So many of our students show care and show activism, but I think it's more than just what rally are you going to go to, you know, which article are you going to write every so often. It's how are you going to incorporate these things into your daily life, and how are you going to keep educating yourself to make sure that you have a say in the narrative in the future.
It's not just about the 19th Amendment. It's about like social justice and activism as a whole, and that's kind of where I think this is trying to go, but I think it's also really calling attention to, because this is a moment, this is a special moment with the 19th Amendment, to all of the work that so many different people have done throughout history to like make us where we are now that we don't even necessarily acknowledge.
Nina Choophungart reporting.